that got it. So it may be that after we've gone through Huang Po, we might say, let's save Linchi for another time. He's been waiting for 1,200 years anyway. He can, wait another few more months, I figure. Um, Before we actually start, I'd like to say, let's see, do you all have this, the Zen source book? Some of you have it, and some of you don't. Thumbs up means you have it. Yeah. Okay, so this is what we're using. And actually, the way I want to structure the class today is that we're going to read everything out loud, so you're not, missing much. But I wanted to talk a little about this book. I was one of the co-editors, along with Junie, with Steve Addis, whose calligraphy is on the front there. This is Nang cutting bamboo, and you might remember that's what he's doing when he hears the Diamond Sutra chanted for the first time. So Steve was himself a wonderful artist. We have a calligraphy of his hanging in Judy's office, and probably most of you have done some sort of class or with Judy, and the calligraphy is hanging, just to her left. It says "Great Way, No Gate," and it's actually how Steve and I met for the first time a long time ago, about 30 years ago. He died about 2 years ago. He had an exhibit at Kellis Gallery, which is no longer in Lawrence, but it was an art um, exhibit business in Lawrence. And I walked in, and his calligraphy, "Great Way, No Gate," was the first thing you'd see when you walked in. And I must have stared at it for about a half an hour. I was just completely taken by it. Uh, well, he noticed this and came over to me and said, please, accept this as a gift. And that meant an awful lot to me. We were very close. Besides working on the Zen source book, we collaborated on a translation of the Tao Te Ching. And as with the Zen source book, and so also on the Tao Te Ching, he led the way. He really knows Chinese, very well. And it was just a pleasure working with him. So the visual arts and literary arts as well. And as I said, died 2 years ago, and really miss him. And I think of him, through these two books that I was fortunate enough to collaborate on with him. So let's start with Huang Po. There are a number of books, and this one I've used quite a bit. The Zen Teaching of Huang Po, John Blofeld, who in maybe one generation ago, he was really very active in the field. And for Linchi, the Zen Teachings of Master Linchi, Burton Watson, who is a renowned translator of Buddhist texts, especially Chinese Buddhist texts. And I love this little slim volume of the Zen Teachings of Rinzai. And the last thing I'll read in this class after we've finished going through everything that we have to say about Rinzai, who's Lin Chi. I'll read you the last 2 or 3 lines in this book because it makes a wonderful closure. So that's what we're up to. And any questions at this point? Then let's plunge right in. I would like to actually read and comment on the entire text. I don't know how long that'll take, and we'll probably abbreviate. We're going to abbreviate first, I guess. This is page 34 in the book. The beginning of the Huang Po chapter, died around 850. Both of these people, Huang Po and Linchi, his student, thrived in the 800s. So some 3 generations after Huineng, the sixth patriarch. And Huineng is the last teacher to be called a patriarch. Um, Up to Huineng, it was one transmission at a time. Uh, After Huineng, things branch out. And it's sort of like the quantum school of Zen. Zen Master Sung San gave Inca to an awful lot of people, um, and many of those got transmission. And we never had Zen Master Sung San never intended that he would be succeeded by just one teacher. He was going to branch out, and that's what is happening in China about the time of Huang Po and Linchi. I don't think we have enough time to read all of this text, but I'd like to call your attention to the beginning of the third paragraph, which informs us that this scholar official Pei Xiu recorded the teachings of Huang Po. And so we have one author who compiled all of these teachings of Huang Po, and that's not the case with Lin Chi. There are scraps here and scraps there, and finally they're all assembled in some sort of way by scholars, but we don't have a single author, transcribing his talks and presenting them, and I don't think that takes anything away from their authenticity, but it's interesting to know. After, as indicated in this third paragraph, after Huang Po died, they collected all of his teachings and circulated them amongst his students, Huang Po's students, for corrections and additions and so forth. So we can be, pretty sure we have a really good representation of what his teaching was. The bottom of page 34, we're told that according to Pei Xiu's preface, which is, the basis of, let me find the book again, of this book, working from that original text, which goes back, 1,200 years. His doctrine, his main teaching, Huineng's main teaching was the teaching of one mind, which doesn't mean that we each have one mind, but there is only one mind, and we all share in it. And mind and substance, mind and whatever mind is thinking about in what we call the objective world, are both void. We would say both empty. It's the same meaning. And it describes the mind as unborn. And we're told here that he predates Bankei, chapter 23, 900 years later, by stressing that even the sutras are only temporary remedies, and actual experience has to be given precedence. And at the top of the next page, Huang Po makes it clear that it is neither reverential nor intellectual, by his statement that even conceiving, even thinking of a Buddha makes us obstructed by that Buddha. So cutting off, all thinking is a teaching that certainly dates back to Huang Po, as it's put here, put mental activity to rest. So of course we are trying to do that when we sit. And if you're like me, mostly you observe how you're not doing that. The thoughts keep recurring and flooding in and transforming and transmuting, and but cutting all of that off, Huang Po is telling us, is the essence of Zen practice. Cut off all thinking, as Zen Master Sung San was very fond of saying. Those are the few statements in the introduction that I wanted to point out. Anything else on this introduction, which of course was again written by Steve Addis and lightly edited by myself. Then let's go on to the actual text. Yeah. It begins, when a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind and you recognize it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past. So when we're sitting, all of a sudden you notice that you're thinking. That's all he's talking about here. And if you recognize that, then he says that you've attained the same thing that the Buddhas of the past attained. So Zen Master Sung San like to say, cut off all thinking. So as soon as you're aware of a thought, cut, throw it away, blank slate, start again. To do that, it helps to have a regular meditation practice so you can see that you've deviated from it. And there are many, and we're all urged to choose one that experiment a little and choose the one that works best and stay with it. So Zen Master Sung San will teach on the inhalation, what am I? On the exhalation, don't know. And I found that to be a very effective form of practice. But I encourage everyone to try different forms, really try them. I mean, give it all you have, for some period of time, and then finally settle on one. And then just stay with it. So that's my follow-up, I guess, on what Huang Po has to say. And this paragraph in the middle, last line, your sole concern should be as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. I think we can all relate to that. I think we're all familiar with clinging to a thought that arises, clinging to it and just following it. And oh boy, this is nice. And damn, look, it's 25 after. And yeah, so our practice goes back a long ways, and the difficulties were recognized a long time ago. I think it helps just to realize that. Continuing to the third line from the bottom of that page. Let me just read that paragraph. I will now make luminously clear, that's saying something, how to set about being rid of that Buddha. Consider the sunlight. You may say it is near, but if you follow it from world to world, you never catch it in your hands. Then you may describe it as far away, and you'll see it just before your eyes. Follow it, and behold, it escapes you. Run from it, and it follows you close. No, you can neither possess it nor have done with it. And I imagine that sounds familiar to you and to any practitioner. So from this example, you can understand how it is with the true nature of all things. And henceforth, there will be no need to grieve or to worry about such things. Wouldn't it be nice not to have to grieve or worry about anything? Top of the next page, I have underlined, thus all the visible universe is the Buddha. So are all sounds. Hold fast to one principle, and all the others are identical. Does anyone have any idea what this means? Okay, so we're all in the same boat, I guess. Charlie, you look like you're about to say something.
No, I was waiting here.
Further in that paragraph, to gaze upon a drop of water is to behold the nature of all the waters of the universe, not just this planet. So speaking this way, he's encouraging us, really to look at what arises in our minds. He ends that paragraph. It is an existence which is no existence, a non existence which is nevertheless existence. Well, these negative tautologies are enough to, just say, okay, goodbye. But I encourage you to stay with it. Later in that paragraph, there's never been a single thing, and he's quoting, we don't know who he's quoting here. There's never been a single thing. Then where's the defiling dust to cling? I think the rhyme is accidental, but I sort of like it. There's never been a single thing. Then where's the defiling dust to cling? After continuing in that vein for a while, he's presented with a question by one of his students at the bottom of page 36. What is implied by seeing into the real nature? And he begins his response. What's implied is that nature and your perception of it are one. And he continues along those lines for the next two paragraphs, concluding the middle of the next page. Only when your minds cease dwelling upon anything whatsoever will you come to an understanding of the true way of Zen. Your mind ceases to dwell upon anything whatsoever. Instead, just moment to moment. What is this? I may express it thus. The way of the Buddhas flourishes in a mind utterly freed from conceptual thought processes, by which he means, the usual stuff that's going through our minds, one damn thing after another. We're fortunate in that we practice Zen no matter how unsuccessful we may think we are. We're always catching the mind wandering. At least I am, and most of the people, I should say all of the people that I've ever talked to about this agree. You start, with your meditation technique, and damn it, you're going to do it this time, and you're going to get through the half hour, breathing in, what am I, or whatever, breathing out, don't know. And about 3 minutes later, you're thinking about what you're going to have for breakfast or whatever. If there are any of you who have not had that experience, then please let me know, and I will immediately recommend you for Inca. Okay, no one. Good. Wait a minute, Claire, you're lit up there.
No.
Okay, I understand. Believe me. On the same page at the very bottom, the last sentence, and it's going to continue on to the next page. The one mind alone is the Buddha. And there is no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms, and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it. Does this mean, we can't have the great question? One of the techniques of meditation in our school is breathing in, what am I? And then breathing out, don't know. I don't think that he's outlawing that as a technique. He ends the paragraph, same paragraph, top of 38. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. So what am I? Don't know. The don't know is our school's way of cutting off conceptual thought. Just don't know. So it is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. So it's exactly the same, throughout the universe. in the middle of that paragraph, of that page, and also the middle pretty much of this as a second paragraph, there is only one mind, capital O, capital M. There is only one mind and not a particle of anything else on which to lay hold. For this mind, capital M, is the Buddha. He has sentences like this sprinkled throughout. And when I read the text straight through, yes, 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 and then a sentence like this, I've been saying, yes, that's right, yeah, sure, okay, and now, whoa. And that's, I think that's one of the main functions of any Zen teacher, is to provide the opportunity anyway to have that experience. In the next paragraph, he says it another way. If you can only rid yourselves of conceptual thought, you will have accomplished everything. So conceptual thought, that's our usual, stream of consciousness sort of thinking. He's not ruling out, I don't think, by conceptual thought, the thinking you have to do to solve a problem, whether it's a mathematical problem or some situation in your life that you really have to think through. But that thinking can cloud things or it can illuminate things. And so any kind of thinking, we have to be careful about. We have the opportunity to do that in Zen practice when we're sitting Zen. You actually have the opportunity to do it when you're doing prostrations and chanting as well. Just pay attention. At the bottom of that page, so if you students of the way are mistaken about your own real mind, with a capital M, not recognizing that your own real mind is the Buddha, you will consequently look for him, and you might as well say her, or you might as well say it and have no gender, indulging in various achievements and practices, expecting to attain realization by such graduated practice. We have the school of thought, gradual practice, sudden illumination. Gradual practice, by itself, maybe you get a little better, maybe you get a little better, a little better, but you're still below the threshold of sudden realization. On the other hand, if you don't do this systematic practice, very little chance of sudden illumination ever occurring in your life. The bottom of that same page. Few students of the way are mistaken about your own real mind, not recognizing that it is the Buddha. You will consequently look for him elsewhere, including in various achievements and practices, and expecting to attain realization by such graduated practices. But even after eons of diligent searching, you will not be able to attain to the way. So he's a strong advocate for sudden enlightenment, but we have to give ourselves the opportunity to experience that. Let's see. As I said, I would like to get through both Huang Po and Linchi. So I'm going to be selective for the rest of Huang Po and skip right now to page 39, the end of the second full paragraph there, the sentence that begins, do not keep them. He's talking about the thoughts that arise. Do not keep them, nor abandon them, nor dwell in them, nor cleave to them. Above, below, and around you all is spontaneously existing, for there is no where which is outside the Buddha mind. I've been reading Huang Po for, well, quite a while, actually. Uh, Perhaps for some of you, this is the first time, and you read a sentence like that and you think, what the hell? I do encourage you, if this is your introduction to this, to keep going back to it, even if it's a matter of all of this that we're reading now, to pick a single sentence that really hits you and that can guide your practice. And it only takes a single example. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Going on to the next page, actually 2 pages, page 41, beginning of the second paragraph, is the question, what is the Buddha? And he answers, mind is the Buddha, while the cessation of conceptual thought is the way. Once you stop arousing concepts and thinking in terms of existence and non-existence, long and short, other and self, active and passive, and you name your opposition, such like, you will find that your mind is intrinsically the Buddha. That whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, and in all your speech, remain detached from everything within the sphere of phenomena. Now that's asking a lot. What does it mean that you are abandoning the sphere of phenomena? The literal meaning of phenomena is appearances. That's what the word means in Greek. Whatever appears. What is this? So that every moment of realization, what is this, is an opportunity. We practice that habit when we're sitting, but what's most important is to continue it in our everyday life. What is this?
Yeah, it is.
So sometimes something extraordinary appears to you. What is this? But you don't have to wait for some extraordinary occurrence. You can just look at whatever is before you, and that question arises. It can become a habit, and if it does, you absolutely will break through. I want to conclude Huang Po on page 42. He's coming to an end there. In the second paragraph, first indentation, about 8 or 9 lines down, he's saying, how can you even hope to approach the truth through words? But of course, that's what we're doing right now. We're reading words, but it doesn't stop there. And he goes on to explain. It can't be perceived either subjectively or objectively by looking within or by looking without. So full understanding can come to you only through an inexpressible mystery. When I first read that, I said, damn, of course. So how am I ever going to get that? An inexpressible mystery. But he goes on, the approach to it is called the gateway of the stillness beyond all activity. I'm pretty sure he made that up. I said it's called, I've certainly never seen it anywhere else. So if you wish to understand that, know that a sudden comprehension comes when the mind has been purged of all the clutter of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity. So you have to clean house. You have to clean your mind. You have to clear your mind. As Zen Master Sung San recommended as one form of practice, clear mind, clear mind, clear mind. don't know. And the clear mind, the clear is a verb there, not an adjective, put it that way. Or it's more effective as a verb. Clear as an imperative verb, clear the mind, rather than simply expressing some sort of ideal. If it's an adjective, clear mind, clear mind, clear mind. So how do you clear your mind of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity? Those who seek the truth by means of intellect and learning only get further and further away from it. That's discouraging. Does that mean the learning that we're doing right now gets us further and further away? I don't think so. I think it's realizing that is, the first step. No reliance on others, no attachments, just allowing all things to take their course the whole day long, as though you were too ill to bother. I've never run across that expression anywhere else. We've all been ill, and we know, oh God, I can't do anything, just lie here. So next time that actually happens to you, and that's all you can do, literally, and I don't wish that it happens to you, but odds are it will happen to all of us again. Take a good look at that and see if it is perhaps some sort of paradigm. And ending Huang Po with the last with the last paragraph on that page. He's talking about the void. We use the term emptiness without the, but we're talking about the same thing. So emptiness is fundamentally without spatial dimensions, passions, activities, delusions, or even right understanding. I mean, it's really empty. You must clearly understand that in it there are no things, no men, no Buddhas, for this void, this universal emptiness, contains not the smallest hairbreadth of anything that can be viewed spatially. It depends on nothing, is attached to nothing, is all-pervading, spotless beauty. That's encouraging. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. He's talking about you and your mind when he says that. A perception sudden as blinking, a perception that subject and object are one, subject and object are one, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding, will you awake to the truth of Zen? I think that's by far the most significant, for me it certainly is, paragraph in all of the Huang Po that's here, and I don't know, maybe in the whole book. So pause for any observations or questions before we go on to Linchi. Okay, let's go on to Linchi. So the same Chinese characters are pronounced Rinzai in Japanese, so that's why he's also called Rinzai. It's not another name, just a Japanese pronunciation of his Chinese name. And the Rinzai tradition of sudden enlightenment is what he's best known for. So gradual cultivation, but enlightenment is not gradual. It's like that. Still a major force in East Asian Zen. We see when he was born here in 810 and 815. As you'll see from the reading his own words, he started to practice quite early in life. And the story that he relates of his enlightenment is a classic, and after this dramatic confrontation, Linchi became a member of the fourth generation of succession from Huineng. So this is where we are. Huineng is the last patriarch of the six, and we're 4 generations beyond that. One of his most celebrated remarks is, if you meet the Buddha, kill him. Kill the Buddha. Of course, he means to kill the Buddha mentally and not physically. If you are lucky enough to meet an actual physical Buddha, and they do exist in this world, be careful. Anyway, it seems very iconoclastic. Kill the Buddha. It follows directly upon his teacher Huang Po's comment about not attaching oneself to anything. So killing means cutting off the attachment, cutting off. Many of Linchi's teachings, reading a little further down, are geared toward helping his followers come to their own understanding that they must let go. They must let go even after taking a step forward and break through their illusions, including those brought on by words. I would say especially, including those brought on by words, speech, language. And because of his varied and dynamic, he was known for hitting, that's dynamic, teaching methods, Linchi has been portrayed, there is Zen painting, sometimes shouting, sometimes holding a stick. And we have one of those, of course, in the book, don't we? He's either glowering in his portraits, with the eyebrows, or he's got a stick and he's about to hit you. That's my kind of teacher. So we read, we know that Huang Po actually had kind of a biographer who just kept track of his life and recorded everything. With Linchi, it's a little more scattered, but many of his talks, were preserved, and anecdotes also. Oh yeah, we have him on the next page, where he's glowering at somebody and shouting. Ah! Should we do more shouting at our school? I don't know. You think so? Okay. Did you just wake up? I'll remember that, okay. The first couple of pages, he's talking about his experiences with Huang Po. At an early age, he went to sit with him, and finally, after 3 years, he's encouraged to go ask the abbot, what is the basic meaning of Buddhism? It's always a good question to ask any teacher. But before he had even completed the question, Huang Po hit him. So, I wonder about this. How did he hit him? Well, he has a stick, of course. All Zen masters have sticks, So it's probably with his stick. Where did he hit him? Probably not on the head. Where do you think he hit him? Shoulder? That's my guess too. That's something you can do for yourself. If you find that, just do that hard. See if you don't wake up. Who needs a teacher? Yeah. And forgot to read the section in Huang Po where he says, I myself here am my own teacher. And that's what we all have to be, our own teachers. And don't go easy on yourself. You won't be a good teacher if you do. Okay, so Linchi gets hit before he even completed the question. Huang Po hits him. And he reports back to the head monk, who says, well, just go ask him again and see what happens. So does this 3 times, and he gets hit 3 times. And as you can imagine, he was pretty discouraged. What would you feel like if you go to the teacher and you just get hit 3 times? This happens. Well, if you happen to live in Lawrence, Kansas, we're the only Zen center in town, so you have to leave, and that's what he was advised to do. Take your leave of the master, and you go sit with somebody else. Maybe that'll work out better. if you do that, let me know how it works out, by the way. In general, it pays to stay with the teacher unless it's somebody like me. Then I certainly encourage you to go out and practice with someone else. So he goes where he's advised to go, to Da Yu's place. And he asked Da Yu, the same, well, he had the question, where have you come from? And Linchi replied, I've just been at Huang Po's monastery. What did Huang Po tell you? Well, 3 times I asked him about the essence of Buddhism, and 3 times he hit me, but I don't know if I did anything wrong or not. Da Yu said, Huang Po, like a kindly old grandmother, was worrying himself on your behalf, and you come here to ask if you did something wrong or not? So hearing these words at the top of page 47, Linchi attained a great enlightenment and exclaimed, there's nothing much to Huang Po's Buddhism after all. When he said that, Da Yu grabbed the young monk and said, you little bedwetting devil. I love that expression, bedwetting devil. You were asking if you've done anything wrong or not, and now you are claiming that there's not much to Huang Po's Buddhism? What did you just see? Speak quickly, quickly. Linchi punched Da Yu 3 times in the side with his fist. So Da Yu let him go and said, Huang Po is your teacher. This is no business of mine. So Linchi takes his leave of Da Yu, returns to Huang Po. And Huang Po said, this young fellow keeps coming and going. When will he ever stop? Linchi replies, it's all due to you being a kindly old grandmother. When he finished his formal greeting, he stood in attendance. Huang Po asked him, where have you been? I went to see Da Yu. What did he say to you? And Linchi explains what he said. Huang Po says, if I could grab that rascal, I'd give him a beating. Linchi replied, no need to say what you'd like to do. You can take this right now, and gave Huang Po a good punch. Can you believe this stuff actually happened? Imagine this happening now. Yeah, I mean, there's a lawsuit, coming. That's one thing that's happening. Anyway, Lin Chi gives another shout, and Huang Po says, attendant, take this bad man out of here into the monks' quarters, by which he means he's accepted as a part of the community. And Wei Shan told this story to somebody called Yang Shan. Did Lin Chi get his enlightenment from Dao Yu or Huang Po? And the reply was, he not only rode on the head of the tiger, but he also pulled his tail. It's a very nice expression. So the next thing I have underlined is right after the gap on page 47, his teaching, don't be afraid of giving up your bodies and sacrificing your lives for the sake of Buddhism. 20 years have passed, so he says, 20 years ago, when I was at Huang Po's place, I asked him about the essence of Buddhism 3 times, and 3 times he was kind enough to hit me with his stick. But it was as though he had touched me lightly with a branch of mugwort. Remembering this, I would like the favor of the stick again. Is there anyone, and he's talking to the assembly, who can give me a good smack? And one of the monks stepped forward and said, I can do it. Linchi held out his stick to him, but as the monk was getting ready to grasp it, Linchi whacked him. So what do you think of all this hitting? I just want to pause here. I don't think there's any more hitting going on anyway. Kerry, you're smiling at this. You must be thinking some thoughts. What do you think?
It I don't know. It seems like a good comedy act to me. It's hey, come on up here and give me a hit. Oh, whap. And
So slapstick comedy,
yeah,
right? Literally.
Did anyone ever see Blake Edwards' comedies written back in the 60s with Peter Sellers and Cato?
Oh, is there a lot of hitting there?
Peter Sellers.
Pardon me?
It was the same sequence. I think
Sort
Blake
of thing.
Edwards
Yeah.
must have read this thing about Linchi.
Well, as I said, it comes across like a comedy for us. I don't know quite what to make of it, except that, it doesn't work anymore. You can't do it. I mean, we do it symbolically with our stick. You've all been to an interview with teacher has the stick and, lightly, very lightly touches you. Say, I hit you 30 times or something like that. But so the tradition, in some sense, continues. I'm afraid, one of you would grab the stick and hit me, so I hold on to it tight. So please don't do that.
One of my favorite stories
Yeah.
about, I think it was Suzuki Roshi, and shortly after they founded the San Francisco Zen Center, and
Uh-huh.
it was in a really bad neighborhood where they
Yeah.
had to rent, and some sort of rough looking guys came in one night and were just looking around, and everybody was scared, and Suzuki Hiroshi walked up and said, "Can I help you?" And he had a Zen stick, and this tough looking guy says, "Hey, what do you do with that stick?" And Suzuki Hiroshi said, "I hit people with it." And then he very gently just barely touched the guy in the shoulder,
Uh,
and they just turned around and left.
I remember that story. That's great. Real hitting door. Um, One thing else on this page that really struck me, you all know our teaching phrase, just do it. So toward the bottom, the paragraph that starts, followers of the way, simply follow circumstances and fulfill your karma. So follow circumstances and fulfill your karma. So I think fulfill your karma is a kind of a fancy way of saying just do it, fulfill your karma. When it's time to put on your robe, put it on. When you need to travel, walk onward. When you wish to sit down, just sit. There's the just sit, just do it. Never have a single thought of entering Buddhahood. The implication is that this just do it mind is Buddhahood. No special efforts. You have only to lead your everyday life without seeking anything more. Piss and shit, get dressed, eat your rice, lie down when you're tired. Good advice for everyone. Let's see what else I have outlined because we are getting close to our hour. At the very bottom of page 48, just these two lines. In my view, there is no Buddha, no sentient being, no past, no present. Realization is immediate. It's another way of saying sudden enlightenment, needing no time, no practice, no enlightenment, no gain, no loss. There's no other teaching but this. Were there a special Dharma? I would say it must be a phantom and a dream. This is all that I teach. That's an amazing summation to me, and it's a passage that I've wondered about for a long time and go back to. And you may find that it hits you also and is worth returning to. In the middle of that page, don't let yourself be taken in. If you have even a moment of doubt, the demon will enter your mind. Even bodhisattvas, if they give way to doubt or are assailed by the demon of birth and death, just put a stop to such thoughts. Don't make anything. Same sort of thing in the next paragraph down. That followers of the way, don't be deluded in this or any other world without intrinsic nature or any nature that manifests itself. That's hard to wrap your mind around. They were just empty, as the word empty is empty. Okay? If you regard any name, any word as designating reality, you're making a big mistake. Even if anything does exist, it's always changing. So if it exists for a microsecond, and then it's gone. At the very bottom of the page, that last paragraph is all about the six senses: sound, smell, taste, touch, and don't be deluded by any of these. They're all empty. And the very famous saying in the very last line, if you meet a Buddha, kill the Buddha. The more complete expression, if you meet a Buddha on the road, kill the Buddha. Kill the patriarch. Kill your parents. Kill the enlightened beings. So I ask you, what is meant by kill here? I don't think any of you think it's a murder. What is it? Agata, you're smiling. That's dangerous. I'm going to ask you what you have on mind.
Well, it just means get rid of this attachment as soon as you can, unless you don't you want to go to hell.
Yeah, nobody wants to go to hell. So you mean cut it off. Don't labor with it. Don't go nyan, 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 nyan. Just that kind of cutting. You ever catch yourself doing nyan, 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 nyan? If you pay attention and you're like me, it's about 50 times a day. So when that happens, cut right through it. That's the advice here. Towards the end of the next full paragraph there, if you were a teacher and you understood that this questioning and answering is just a device, you take the question and throw it into a deep hole. And the student then calms down and asks for instructions. So I don't quite know what's meant by that. I'm never aware of myself of taking something issue that the student comes in with and throwing it into a deep hole. If any of you have any advice, please email me or text me, okay? I'd like to know. The next paragraph, I highlighted and I have a question mark by it. Or maybe the teacher responds, you can't tell good from bad, or the teacher may take something and play with it in front of a student. But the student sees through this device and becomes the host, not being fooled by his teacher's humbug. The teacher then reveals half of himself, and the student gives a great shout. The teacher now enters into the world of verbal differentiations to see if the student gets confused, but the student responds, this old baldy can't tell good from bad himself, whereupon the teacher sighs with admiration. Have you ever had a teacher in an interview sigh with admiration? Me either, okay. But I love the way that paragraph ends. He sighs with admiration. Here is a true follower of the way. And to conclude, I have a few lines in the next full paragraph, right in the middle of the paragraph that begins, Linchi answered. Instead of looking outside, you should turn your inner light upon yourself. Zen Master Sung San would say, look inside. Turn the light of your mind on yourself, and you will realize that your body and mind are not different from those of the patriarchs and Buddhas, and there's nothing special that you need to do. This is called attaining the Dharma. Those are strong words, and I've wondered about these words for years. It seems to me it's a little dangerous. I keep coming back to them, and you may find yourself coming back to them also. The last thing I have outlined is at the bottom of this page. My old teacher, and absolutely my old teacher, Zen Master Sung San, was fond of saying, open your mouth, already a mistake. Yeah. What about you, Agat? Have you heard this? That's fine.
I'm just trying to be a good student, but actually I try to ignore it.
You try to ignore it. Okay. No, I literally meant, do you use that teaching in those words? Do you tell students that?
I tell students that this is a instruction for advanced practitioners.
Okay, good. That rules me out, so I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, that wraps it up for me. I wanted to read you, I think I promised you I'd read you the last sentence in this little anthology, the Zen Teachings of Rinzai, and I kind of like that picture too. You can tell he's got his fist clenched and he's about to yell. So this is the last section. I'll read, it's just a short paragraph. It's about his death, Linchi's death. The master was about to enter transformation. In other words, he was about to die. And sitting, he said, after my death, do not allow my true Dharma eye to perish. And one of his students, Sancho, burst out, how could your true Dharma eye perish? And the master asked, what will you say when in the future people put questions to you? And Sancho gave a howl. Who could know that my true Dharma eye would perish through this blind ass? This was Linchi's response. And then he revealed his nirvana. In other words, he died. I think that's a great way to end this session. But if anyone has anything else, please. Okay, let's all smile. Thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay and talk to each other if you like. I'm going to leave it live, but I'm going to absent myself from that felicity. So thank you all very much for this class.
Thank